Hello and welcome to another episode of the Call to Courage podcast. The original definition of courage means from the heart. And we believe that you can cultivate more courage, much like you can exercise a muscle, by doing courageous things. And conversations that come from the heart really cultivate more courage inside you that you can use as motivation to get the things done that you want in your life, but also to support your relationship with yourself, and the courage spills out and supports the relationships with the people that are important to you. And so I'm really excited to share a courageous conversation that I had today with a dear brother whose name is Brian Jenkins. And this conversation is really significant for me for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because over the last few months, I've been calling in invitations for people to co-create with me, either to want to be on the show or to potentially invite me to be a guest on their show. And when Brian sent me a message on Instagram and said he was focused on couples counseling and shared that he'd been on a really deep and transformational journey inside his partnership that led him to doing the work that he's doing at the moment, it felt like such a sweet fit with the relationship work that I've started focusing on over the last few months. And so we jumped on the call, we did an Instagram live, and that's the conversation that you're going to be hearing today. And when we recorded this conversation, I didn't at the time realize everything that we would be going through and some of the topics that we would cover. But the second reason that this conversation was so meaningful for me was hearing Brian share some of his experiences that he's been on as a partner, holding space and being there for his wife when she has been unwell, and the way he's showed up stoically and the stories that he's held for himself and some of the challenges he's felt in this dance really resonated for me, because I've been in a similar place with my partner, Araminta, who has over the last few years been dancing with some of her own health challenges, as well as being at a stage in her life at the moment where she's potentially going through perimenopause. And she has days where she feels fucking rat shit and she just doesn't feel like getting out of bed. She doesn't feel herself. She feels frustrated because she doesn't feel herself. She sometimes feels disappointed or pissed off because she wants to be out adventuring with me, or she feels that she's potentially slowing me down, or just been a challenging time for both of us. So to hear Brian share his story was really meaningful for me, because it really created a place for me to be able to reflect on my own journey and to be able to hear somebody speaking courageously from the heart and talking about what he's been going through. I would say this conversation and one of the pieces that he shared around this actually opened up a small crack that had a really significant impact in my personal relationship with Araminta only 3 days after recording this podcast. As Minta navigates some of these health challenges that I alluded to earlier, one of the things that she's wanting to get rid of in her life and put down is her engagement and her relationship with tobacco. She's been a smoker for most of her life, and for her, it's a way to be able to relax and to be able to ground, and it's something that's been with her for a while. And I want to support her to put it down, and I also want her to be in her power and feel that I'm not pressuring her to put it down, because this is her life and her choice. And so how I show up for her and how I support her to be able to put down the nicotine habits has been a challenge. But it's very clear that with the health challenges that she's in at the moment, her number one priority is getting better. And all I want for her is to be well. And so we've spoken about the tobacco, and she's been working at wanting to put the tobacco down and to stop smoking. And so there's been a couple of conversations that we've had about her putting down the tobacco and stopping smoking. And a couple nights ago, she had a bit of a cough. She was also hanging out with a friend of hers, and I saw her rolling a cigarette, and I didn't say anything, but there was something about that cigarette that for me just felt like I was a bit triggered. And again, like it's not for me to play parent or to make her feel shame about it, or at that stage, even to hold her accountable. We're having this ongoing dialogue, but there was something in that cigarette for me that just felt like, And the reason it felt like that, because I was like, fuck, man, you're coughing, you're not feeling well, you're going into a training, you want to be better, and now you're rolling a cigarette. And I was like, Anyway, I held this, and we eventually got into bed that evening. We went to sleep. At some point in the evening, Araminta has a dream that she felt like there was something in her throat, some plastic or something in her throat, and she sat up in bed and started coughing. And she coughed for I don't know, maybe 30 seconds. It woke me up. I sat up to see that she was okay. And something about that coughing spree that she had made me think about the cigarette that she'd had earlier. This is now 2:00 in the morning. We've been asleep for a couple of hours already when she has this coughing fit. I get her some water. She takes some oregano oil, has a drink of water herself, and I go for a pee. I get back into bed, and I'm thinking about the cigarette. I'm thinking about Minter, wanting her to be better, and this coughing fit. And in my mind, this coughing fit is a function of the cigarette that I saw her have earlier. Like, I've sort of made that story up in my head. And I don't know what the fuck happened next, but I just burst into tears and had this huge release that I just couldn't control. It was tears. It was full body shakes. It was, I just felt this wave of emotion coming through me. And the story that it sounded like was like, I'm fucking done. I'm so done holding this and watching you not get better month after month, year after year, and then you're not putting down the cigarettes only to see you have this coughing fit. And I cried and emotionally released. It must have been 15 minutes. And through my tears, I'm trying to explain to Araminta just the frustration that I'm feeling about this. And it was really fucking powerful. And it was a really strong PowerPoint for both myself and Minter, because for me, it symbolized how much I'd been holding around her being unwell. Like, I'm wanting to show up, but I don't want to be a rescuer. I want to be able to support her to be well. And I also want to trust that she's having her own experience and trust that her soul is having the exact initiation that it needs, and fucking stop smoking cigarettes. Like, there was a part of me that was just fucking angry. And the fact that I managed to release what I think has probably been something that I've been holding, a collective holding of I would say, like, maybe it's anxiety, it's a function of frustration, it's a function of helplessness, it's a function of powerlessness. There's definitely some rage in there. There's also, at the bottom of it, just a deep, deep, deep amount of love for this being that I really want to be well. And she just held me, and I just kept crying and crying and crying. And what she said to me at some point during this emotional release phase was, thank you. This has been so helpful for me to see, first of all, how much I've been carrying and caring about her, but also just how much I love her. And then she said something to me which was the medicine that I think is really the major gift that came from this, which was, I want to love myself as much as you love me. And I was like, it landed like music to my ears, because I think some of the journey that Mint has been dancing with has been, as we all have from time to time, like a lack of self-love and a not being so kind to ourselves. And there's a part of me that just doesn't want her to be unwell anymore, and I want to call her to power on anything that's not aligned, that's not for her highest good, to get better. And I really think the conversation that I had with Brian was really one of the cracks that opened up this potential opportunity for me to just hear his story. The cigarette rolled under the table that made me like angry, and then the coughing fit, I would say spree, the coughing fit that she had in the night, and the dream that she had, were super connected to our dream life, and just recognizing the power and magic that comes from dreams was just this alchemy that managed to get me to a place to be able to release all of these emotions. And I think it's something we're still going to unpack and journey with more, but it was really profound that this set of circumstances of Brian reaching out to me, having a conversation with him, the fact that he's been on a similar journey to me, right round to this emotional release phase that I had the other evening, has been such a beautiful, beautiful gift. And I'm really excited to be sharing this conversation with you. Before I jump into today's episode, I also want to share something called the Soulmate Safari that I recently created. This is a 20-minute high-powered masterclass for men that are looking to escape the dating desert and attract their ideal mate. You would never go out into the jungle without a plan or without a map. Yet many of us are navigating the dating world or our personal relationships without any tools, without any plan, and just sort of hoping for the best. And the reality is, if you are in a relationship and you keep seeing the same relationship patterns, or you keep attracting the same type of people in your world, it's almost impossible for you to break out of them without recognizing the three important keys that you need in order to be able to shift your relationship sort of source code and move into a new vibration to attract more suitable mates to the dating table. I'm going to leave a link in the show notes to this free masterclass. You're going to meet an amazing human called Ranger G, who's going to safely take you all the way through the dating jungle and bring you home safely with these three keys that you need to attract and maintain a transformational partnership without getting eaten by a crocodile. Enjoy the episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the Soulmate Safari.
Dope. You don't believe the lies. Brian Jenkins is here.
What's up, brother? Nice to see you, man.
Yeah, you as well. I'm glad we made this connection happen across the world.
Greetings from Guatemala. What's news in Spain? How things going?
Oh, wow. I didn't recognize you're in Guatemala. Yeah, I'm here in the Canary Islands off the coast of Morocco. So right now it's a beautiful, probably about 28 degrees, breezy, sunny, and good vibes.
Is it got surfing there?
On this particular island, it's not as popular as a neighboring island, on Fuerteventura. That's where they do like the kite surfing championships. So, but they do a little bit. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, brother, thank you so much for making the time to hang out today. I'm excited to spend some time chatting to you and dropping in on all things relationships. Maybe you can start with a little bit of an introduction about who you are, what you're focusing on in your life at the moment, and perhaps a little bit of your story specifically around relationships.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, you asked for a lot there. I'm gonna see if I can contain myself. I love to talk, especially about myself. So as Garrett mentioned, my specialty is around relationships, specifically with committed couples and singles who are wanting to be in a more intentional partnership. And really this work was inspired by my own journey of relationships, a lot of self-sabotage, a lot of routine beliefs around who I thought I could be as a boyfriend, as a partner, and now as a husband. Just celebrated 5 years ago, me and my wife. We've been together for about 9 years. And in that process of journeying through, relationships since I've been 15 years old, I'm just turned 40. It's been a tumultuous one, a lot where I've made some decisions I haven't been proud of. I broke hearts, caused a lot of tears. And that story that I told myself about the man who caused those tears was, I must be an asshole. I must not be, meant for love. I don't know if I know how to love. I feel bad for the next woman who's going to accept me because this is just the thoughts I had in my mind. And so, going through that process and recognizing that I was literally setting myself up for failure before I even got into partnership is what set me on a trajectory to really undo that negative self-talk and abuse, and then led me to now guiding others in the world.
Wow. Yeah. I resonate so much with that. It's like my reframe around that has been recognizing the parts of myself in the past that have not been so connected with myself and have caused harm in some of the partnerships that I've been in. There's a part of me that feels some shame as I've grown and progressed and look back on those versions of myself, and I've been wow, I can't believe I was the guy that did that. Mine was around radical honesty, like not always being completely truthful about maybe my desires or setting boundaries or something like that. But now I recognize my reframe has really been recognizing that that's really the hero of my journey. That's the version of me that was getting me to a place to wake up and to be able to make different choices. But I still go back to that place and recognizing some of the choices that I've made and some of the people that I've hurt in my past. It's hard to do. How do you forgive yourself for that? What's your process for reconnecting with that version of you?
Man, how I forgive myself. Right here, I'm gonna get a bit choked up because it's still alive. There's a lot of work that I've done to forgive myself, and I recognize that was the number one thing I had to do. I literally had to do this. Too many things in my life that I say I have to do, but that was for one I had to do to allow myself to be in partnership with other people. Because I was carrying so much guilt and shame into these relationships, and that guilt and shame was greatly influencing how I was showing up. So my process was going back and recognizing my intentions, right? And in most cases, when I did caused damage, broken hearts. Maybe I didn't live up to my word. Maybe I made a decision that I thought was going to be the best intended for the other person, and really I was thinking about myself. If I really go back to the nothing that I did, I set out to say, I'm going to ruin her life. Not one moment did I ever have that thought in my mind. It's based on my patterns, the way I saw my parents live their marriage, what I saw on TV, my own fears, all that influenced how I showed up. But not one time did I wake up and I was like dead set, I'm going to screw her over. And so once I recognized that it was not my intention at all, albeit I'm taking responsibility for how I showed up. It was not my intention. It allowed me to go through that healing process and just forgive myself and recognize that I'm an imperfect human doing the best damn job I can, which comes back around to what we talked about today. Actually, the title we put in is the art of fuck up our relationships, so I'll just leave it there for a moment. I'd love to hear how you move through it because it sounds very alive to you as well.
Yeah, it's a big one for me. And I think I haven't actually or looked at it exactly the same way that you're talking about it, but that's also true for me. Like at no point would I ever be like, I'm gonna try and upset this person or I'm trying to break their heart. It was wrapped up. My journey has really been around this inner polite boy. I have this inner polite person that is really, it was a sort of a behavior that was really celebrated when I was a kid. And it was a superpower in some ways. As I was polite and I was making sure that other people were happy, I got my needs met. I was, I was loved by my parents, etc. It got me connected with women. But then the shadowy part of that is too much politeness and wanting to protect other people that showed up as not being able to be completely honest. And I would say to myself, well, I can feel this woman wants more from this connection than I do. I don't want to hurt her. So I'm going to maybe not have the difficult conversation or maybe not be completely honest about where I feel these specific things. But I feel the same part, which is like I never really did it to hurt somebody. But as I looked and I've grown and developed and recognized that actually the kindest thing you can do to somebody is be completely honest in all times about how you feel, about what your desires are, about when those things change, about when you can feel like a mismatch between what I want and what it is that the other person wants.
Yeah.
That's really the work to be able to be in that place. And so, yeah, I think it's really been that for me, just recognizing what those moments are and just accepting and loving. And if there's actual work to be done, whether it's in person, like going back to somebody and saying, hey, I remember I did this, I'm really sorry. Actually doing that, or you can do that energetically as well by just writing letters to people from the past and just freeing them and saying sorry and asking for forgiveness. That's really been my work to do that.
Yeah. In that last piece, I just really feel compelled to share that because I know I have a couple of male clients in particular who share exactly what you said, which is the part of what about when you can't get in contact and ask for forgiveness from that person? Like, what if it's not an option,
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of people get hung up on that. And I know I was one of those people as well, where for probably about a good 5 years after one of my previous partners, story doesn't matter. I felt a lot of guilt and shame around that. And I wanted to make it right. Well, she rightfully so cut me off. She put a very thick line and barrier between myself and her to protect herself, because I wasn't respecting her boundaries, And so a in-person, or even a phone call wasn't a possibility for me. And I carried that with me for a long time. And exactly what you said, I did very similar practices with having those energetic connections, those releases for myself and for her as well. Like, I have no idea how she's moving through life, and I'm really not so concerned about it. It's just about just freeing myself energetically so I can now be at that time with future partners and then now my wife. But the power in doing that without needing to do it, because even if I speak to her, let's say I have the opportunity, there's no guarantee she's going to say, oh my gosh, Brian, thank you so much for your apology. I felt it down to my core, my soul. I forgive you. I free you. I forget everything. That's what we want to get, but may not be the possibility. She may light you up again and say, thank you. I hear you, but you're still an asshole. You did this. My life's ruined because of you. And then what do you do? What do you do? You stay a prisoner to your emotions and still, so I love the practice of writing that letter and just energetically cutting those times.
For those of you that are watching live, if you've got any questions for Brian around authentic relating, how to show up in partnership, how to keep the fire alive, how to process any of your exes, feel free to put it in the comments and we'll get to those towards the end. I want to share, maybe ask you rather, the art of fucking up your relationship is an theme that you have, and I'd like you to unpack that. I'm just going to leave it with you to roll with what that actually means, because it at some level doesn't sound like the type of thing that we want to be doing.
Yeah, and I get that. And to be fair, like it's actually that theme, motto, mantra actually was birthed out of my coaching sessions with the couple. And I recognized, as I was guiding them through it, oh wow, how applicable this can be for me. And so essentially the art of fucking up is recognizing that the expectations that we put on ourselves individually, and then the expectation we put on ourselves in partnership, how we want to show up as a husband, a boyfriend, a lover, a provider, all these things. And the same thing for the woman as well. We have all these expectations of what this is going to look like. I'm going to be this romantic guy, and I'm always going to be solid. I'm going to be grounded with my emotions. I'm going to be able to hold the container in space for her when she's throwing the daggers and fire at me. And I'm going to be rock solid. I'm going to be this Romeo, right? This shining knight. Well, for me, it hasn't always turned out that way, right? To me, as we're talking about, there's been moments where I didn't live up to my expectation. There's been times where I totally lost track of it. Little kid came crying, kicking and screaming. He took over the show, and things happen as they do. So when I'm talking to myself and then into couples, is to recognize that with our best expectation, intention of showing up to this amazing lover, we're going to mess it up based on our expectations. And that's okay. It is completely okay. And this is also part of what I didn't connect this phrase with my healing journey, but part of my healing journey was recognizing that I didn't do anything intentionally to hurt someone. It just happened that way as part of my growth. And I trust that part of the way I showed up aided this previous partner on her growth. I mean, I don't need to see it. So if we can come into partnership and have these open dialogues about what our fears are, what our insecurities are, what our Achilles heel is, what our dreams are, what our passions are, and understand that we may not be able to unravel this the exact way we choose to, that it will get messy. It's not a question of if, it will get messy. You will step on each other's toes. You will piss each other off. You will break each other down without trying. So if you can accept that you're going to fuck this up with all your heart in it, and at least for me, it takes some pressure off of that perfectionism to be this ultimate guy. Like I don't lose sight of what that vision is, but just recognize that some days I'm not going to be able to meet it. And that's also okay. Did I do the best I could in that moment? And if the answer is yes, cool. If it's no, I get to have a hard, honest, radical conversation with myself about why I didn't step up.
Yeah. The part for me, I think, which is interesting, it's that those triggers and those fuck ups, a lot of them only start to come with a relationship that goes deep. Meaning, you often don't have these in the shallow connections. In the early stages, we're showing the best versions of ourselves. We haven't got a lot of momentum. Perhaps we haven't been on deep journeys with regards to financial stuff, living together stuff, raising kids together stuff, looking at money stuff, and so, you start out in the early phases of a relationship, and new relationship energy is so easy. It's like, oh, you're amazing and I'm amazing. We're amazing together. That's all smooth. But then
everyone should be like that.
I'm going to show you how to be in a relationship. And then you get to 2 years and suddenly you're like, what the fuck is going on? All your triggers around money come up. The person that you thought you could hold yourself in, suddenly you can't. That version of you that's like, I'm going to be this person that's so solid. I'm just going to be super grounded in every moment. And suddenly this person is like, whoa, throwing daggers at you, and I'm going to throw these things back. And you're like, whoa, this is what I signed up for. And I think it's the depth that comes from being in a transformational containership that really allows those things to percolate and pop up. And I've moved a little bit in the last few years inside people that are inside polyamorous or open relating containers. And there's a lot of stuff that comes up inside those containers. But I've also seen a few people, and my partner's actually shared this with me, that she never really allowed herself to go deep with one person because she had the opportunity to stay with different people at sort of shallow levels. As soon as it became figures come up, I'm going to be like, listen, I'm going to take a break from this and I'm going to try to see my other lover and things cool down a bit, but you never really have the chance to go deep. And that's the challenge and the beauty of being in a transformational container where you commit to one person and say, I'm fucking here no matter what. And know that the longer that you're in, the more it's going to feel fucked up.
Yeah. Brad, I love the way you unpack that, because to me, in that, like that transformational going through, essentially, it's going to feel like a war sometimes, A couple weeks ago, like my wife and I, we were in it. Like I think for the both of us, I'll share from my experience, it was one of the hardest weeks I've had in our 9 years together. I mean, all kinds of like, deaths and rebirths were happening at the same time. I'm like throwing the towel. This is it. I'm done. This is insane. Then I'm crying. I'm saying, yeah, well, you would really step it up. And so, but in like, in committing, like really committing to someone else and really committing to your process and their process, it's going to get messy. But that's where like the rich, fertile soil is, right? Like, and I think, no one, I don't think there's a moral obligation for every partnership to come into a relationship with that kind of depth. I don't. I think it would be amazing if we did, but I don't think it's necessary. I think coming together and you both be as honest as possible about what it is that you're looking for and what you want can save a lot of that I guess that struggle or this tension that's there. You both may just say, hey, you know what? We're at this phase of our lives and our journeys. We don't want to go heal our ancestral wounds. We're not here to clean the path of like my father and my grandfather. Like, we're just actually here to coast. If that's your prerogative, then go in there together and coast. What tends to happen is that there's this mashup of expectations, of journeys, and what I'm here to do, what you're here to do, and we're not bringing it together like from a consensus standpoint. To be honest, like that's where it gets messy. But even the path of like of messing this up, I'd say that like with play, and also to help to prepare the couples for what's going to come. Where I don't want to avoid things. Like, I'm not that coach. I'm the coach. I will sniff out the stuff that you guys have been hiding, and we're going to sit each other in the room and we're going to hammer it out, right? In so much a loving way. And we're going to be tense. We're going to be triggered, and we're going to sit with it, and we're going to grow through it, right? There's other, paths out there. That hasn't be this path. There's other paths out there which fit more surface, and they kind of heal, and they work on conversational techniques, and that's fine. Like, this is not the only path, but I do believe that it's calling in for me the couples who want to get into that transformational work for themselves, understanding that the partner they're with is going to help them transform, right? And it's going to hurt sometimes. This comes with the package,
Are you saying that there's a path that you can choose where you choose not to go deep, meaning you stay in partnership, you keep it at a specific level, and you choose not to go and do the work? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't necessarily recommend it. It's not my truth, but I do believe, there's people who are ready for that work, and that may not be their path in their relationship. Their path may be somewhere else, with their kids or with their profession. Yes. But I think as long as you're on the same page, you choose that. Sure.
But don't you think that choice inevitably has this underlying volcano of stuff that after a certain amount of time, that stuff's going to bubble up no matter what? It's like you can choose to go have a surface level connection, but if you continually having an argument about the same stuff, there's something underlying that at some point is going to either be a really uncomfortable or difficult shallow connection, or you need to look at the stuff.
Yes and no. I think if there's honesty around where you are and what you want to confront, I think you can make that conscious choice. So, for example, I have one of my best friends. Love this guy to death. We've been friends, for over 20 years now, and he is almost the complete opposite. He is non-confrontational. He's not going to rock the boat. He will definitely bite his tongue. Amazing husband and amazing father. Now, I don't know exactly what it is. His truth is. We haven't had the depth of conversation. This is not what our relationship is. I love him to death, but we don't have that kind of connection. On the outside, speaking to him, he seems to be quite content, quite happy with happy wife, happy life. If I can give her everything she wants, and give my princesses what they want, he's happy. In his world, he's happy. Now, I could flaunt that and say, well, are you really happy? I could say, are you really not doing things like to clean that stuff up? I have no idea. But if in his world, like, for example, his mission may be to be this amazing provider, and then in that way, help his wife heal through some things. I have no idea. So to me, I think it's the honesty that we have with ourselves. And I actually say that with my experience as well, because I was taking on my journey of everybody. Like, I was going back to him, my father's stuff, my mom's stuff, my family's stuff, like everybody's stuff, because I am the one, which that's cool to a degree. But then I needed to be a savior, and I'm always looking for like these hard paths like to go on. And I recognize for me, it wasn't that productive. Like I'm spending so much energy trying to heal everything. I wasn't enjoying life. Like I just wasn't enjoying. So to me, like now there's like, I'm much more aware of, okay, cool. This 1, 2, maybe 3 things, I'm going after those. If I have time, energy, and interest to go after other things, great. But I actually do want to enjoy this thing called life. So
That's beautiful. So let's give those listening something that they can actually apply. So if someone's in a connection now, whether they're 5 years in or 5 months in, how do you frame that conversation to create a solid foundation that supports the container that you're in, that gets the two people to be able to decide what it is that they want to work on the level of depth that they want to go to? How would you advise somebody on that?
yeah, yeah. There's a variety of ways. What I'll speak to into that's really like, and it just came alive to me a couple hours ago, is to reevaluate your commitment to each other. I say to each other, but to yourselves as well. And that's going to become, to me, very clear, revealing for you if you can practice radical honesty about where you are. So if you just gotten together at the 5-month mark, or if you're in the 5-year mark, stop and just really see what you're committed, how you really are committed to show up for yourself with that person. And now I'm going to ask people to do this in a certain kind of way. So I'll use myself as an example. This became very revealing just a couple hours ago. Is if I say, Brian, I'm committed to being the best husband I can for my wife, to be supportive for her on her healing journey, to love her unconditionally, to not judge her when she's in a mood, to not need her to reciprocate my love. Like I am committed to loving her in a way that doesn't require her to do anything extra for me. Like that's my commitment today. If I even look back the past month and I say, well, that feels like a commitment that I've been doing, that I've had since the beginning, but is that true? And for me, it's not true. It wasn't true. It actually kind of hurt because the fact of the matter is I was loving my wife with conditions. I wanted to love on her and I wanted to feel her love reciprocate that. And there's been times I wanted to love on my wife, but then there's something that she wasn't doing for me, like satisfy a particular need that I had. And I felt myself withhold my love that I wanted to give because I didn't feel that she was getting the love that I wanted. And so that to me was very revealing about how I say I'm committed, because it's easy to say, especially as a relationship coach, I'm committed to my wife, my relationship with myself. So just stopping for a moment and checking in with yourself and saying, well, are you really living your word? If you're not, and this goes for men and women, not just from a man's standpoint, of where is it that you're selling yourself out for yourself and then for your partner? So that's an avenue to get in. Yeah, just do a bit of a stress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can share something else that I think should be maybe spoken about in the early stages. I think there's almost 3 phases of engagement in a relationship. There's like an initial sort of compatibility phase where over the first couple of months, you get to spend time with someone and see if you're genuinely compatible. Do we like each other? Can we flow together? We get to know each other. And there's a certain set of agreements and relationship sort of ideals of stuff that we want to bring to this partnership at that early phase of the relationship. And after the first couple of months, when we're like, this feels good, I feel like I want to go on this journey, knowing what we spoke about at the beginning of this conversation, that shit's going to get messy. It's now like, okay, we're doing this thing. We're 5 months in. What are the relationship agreements and what are we going to work on in the next phase? And I feel that part comes with, I want to just share that I've got this wound of not having a father or having seen my parents divorced, blah, blah, blah. These are my wounds. What are yours? And recognize and pre-frame what those are so that we know what's going to come up and what the other person potentially going to be triggered about as you move into that deeper part of the connection. Because after a couple of months, maybe after a year, new relationship energy is starting to wear off. We're starting to move into the place where it's like life as usual. The sexual intimacy is maybe changing its rhythm a little bit. It's not 2-3 times a day anymore. It's suddenly starting to shift. Does that bring up my sense of unworthiness? Like, be able to put those out on the table and share what those are, I think creates a solid place to be able to move into the next phase of relating from there, to just really know what those are so that you can play fair and know what the other person's likely to be triggered by, so that, for example, someone with an abandonment wound or sort of an anxious attachment style, if you get into an argument, my attachment style tended to be avoidant in the past, where I'd be like, listen, I don't want this confrontation right now. I'm out of here. that's going to be the very thing that triggers my partner. And if we don't know what those things are, that can become a hard cycle to get stuck into. I think that could also be something that could be, framed in a way that could really support a connection in those early phases.
No, Gareth, 100%. And I love that framing. It gives a model to which to go through, to me, to really understand, are you both committed at the same level, right? Because what I'm hearing is, and it drives me crazy when I hear, like, I see some kind of dating post and I say, well, don't be too open too soon, or, don't be too eager. It's like, be real. If you feel it, share that. The person either to reciprocate it or not. And so in this example, I think there's going to be these situations where someone's going to have the capacity, the awareness to say, hey, I want to take this to the next level. And what you're saying takes, I'm going to say, a high level awareness, but a good amount of awareness to say, like, to open up that way. The other person may not be about that life. They may say, what do you want to do on some of my wounds? I don't lose traumas. I have traumas, and the other person may get shut down. And so to me, it comes down to the opportunity, like the thing before, of the people who may not be ready for that, right? People may just say, like, I don't want to go there. That's not what I want to do. Like, this was so fun. You're making it serious now. But I also think the person who introduced that, to frame that, they get to stop for it and say, okay, this person's still an amazing person. They still make me work. I have a good time. But you know what? These things are really important to me. I don't really want to go forward without having these conversations.
Yeah.
So you can then say, it's been great. Like, I want to walk away. Or you can say, you know what? These are important to me. So it's not now. Let's check in a month or so. If you want to, there's a way to play this out. But I think it's interesting that these, I want to say levels, but these, for lack of a better word, levels of where we are.
I agree, man. And I think just the fact that you put that out there and the other person receives it or they don't is an indication of where you want to be in this connection. And if the other person's like, not for me, or I don't even know what you're talking about, that is the very thing that's like, okay, maybe we don't want the same things from this, or maybe we're not ready for, or maybe we're not ready for it now, and that's okay. I love that as a frame. But what the thing about relationship, it's like there is no rule book. There's no playbook that's like, okay, this is how it works. Copy and paste, roll with it. It's like we're freaking complicated, unique human beings with our own desires and traumas, and they're gonna play out differently depending on those connections. And I think there needs to be some flexibility. And this is where the base of this is authentic communication, just to genuinely be with what's alive and feel where the match is between you and your partner.
Yeah. Gareth, I'm feeling that so much, especially the last time you said, like, there's no manual to this. And then this also contributes to why I tell people, if the art of fucking up, there's literally no manual for these two souls that have come together for you guys to make this work. And so, like, in my program, Intentionally You, it's exactly what the program is to create the container for you too. Like, there's all kinds of books and magazines and experts. Yes, listen to them, be inspired by them, but don't be dependent on their advice or their teachings to apply to your unique relationship, right? And I find a lot of people, it takes work. It's scary to be brave, bro. Like, to be honest and to open your chest up, like, in knowing that you're not knowing, like, if the person is being or not, it takes bravery to do that. So we want to go to the extra that says, we've been together for 50 years. We're having an amazing marriage, great sex, great riches, great wealth. So do what we do, just follow these steps. It's like, okay, cool. Take notes. Like, read it, be inspired by it, but still be willing to carve out and create your union together and be in that. And you want to fuck it up. And when you try to do something, she may not like it. She's going to do something. She triggers it, and it's all okay, but just be willing to do it. But some people just don't want to. They want the thing. Tell me the thing to do so I never get hurt. I never have to cry. We never have to have a tough argument. It's like, good luck with that.
Yeah, vibing with that a lot, man. Share some of the challenges that you have been through with your wife around, like, some of her health stuff and what that's meant for your connection, how you've danced with that as a partner, and what it's brought up for you, and how you've been able to show up or not show up intentionally sometimes where you've dropped your ball around that stuff.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
So I think I'm going to start backwards. I want to start backwards a little bit, and this is actually this right around Hell Week. This came up this awareness, this honesty, radical honesty, and part of that radical honesty around, like, commitment It was recognizing that I was carrying this energy that I needed my wife to be sick. I didn't know I was doing this consciously. It wasn't a conscious decision. I needed my wife to be sick, and I was really energetically doubting if she could do it. I was doubting when she said, like, hey, I'm going to wake up with you in the morning. We're going to do it. I'm like, I have the face of like, yeah, great. And so I was like, yeah, right. Or I'm going to start eating better again. Like I've done these things. I've got off track the past 12 months. And I'm like outwardly saying, cool, great. Inwardly like, you're not going to do it. It's not going to last. Right. And what I recognize in that is I've created an identity, an attachment to being that husband, to being that man who's going to like go in with my wife and be there for her with the health issues, the hormones, the mood, everything that comes with it. So what if we haven't had sex for 3 months? I'm going to be that husband who's not going to cheat. I'm not going to go look anywhere else. I'm going to get one to dig it. So what if we're, not acting like we were before? I'm going to be so understanding, so compassionate, so, tuned into her needs that I want to be that guy. And there's that intention. There's nothing wrong with that intention. However, perhaps it's the shadow part of it was I became attached to that because this other person, I didn't feel a lot of value. I wasn't feeling this off my game, but at least I have this. At least I had this thing. And so what would happen if she then became well again? Where would my identity go? Who would I be? That shit hurt. It hurt. And at the same time, it was an honest sort of swallow about what that was like for me and how I was treating the energy. Because I fooled myself. I convinced myself that I would never do the thing. God, I'm leaning in the fire every single time. I'm taking these beatings, but I go back to the corner, I get cleaned up, and I go back in. And I'm so proud of myself for that. And I still am. As we talked about, I didn't know if this was going to be my life. When I was 16, 17, 18, dreaming about, a life that I was going to have with my future wife, or when I proposed my wife 9 years ago, I had no idea this was going to be our life, that she'd have a large tumor on her uterus that would prevent us from having kids, that would, cause a hormonal imbalance, that would, put her in states of depression, that would cause heavy menstrual cycles, that would make her not feel sexy, sensual, not feel like a woman, not want to have intercourse with me, not be intimate with me. I did not see this coming. There was no tarot card reading that said, Brian, prepare for this. Get emotionally, spiritually, physically, energetically ready for this. There was nothing. But I was committed to making it work. So the intention behind that was there. But somewhere along the way, around the about 3-ish year journey, I became very attached to that image. Very attached to that image. And it has been challenging. It hasn't been easy at all. There's been many times I said, like, I'm out. Like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't know what to do. I don't do it. But along this path as well, it's recognizing that I can't explain it. I don't need to understand it. But I called this woman in my life. I believe I've asked for her. There's something that this woman has come into my life with this temporary health condition right now that is asking me to heal. I've learned so much about myself, about who I say I claim to be, right? Like about my groundedness. Dude, you ain't grounded. Like, go back into that fire. Let's see how grounded you are now. Oh, you're patient now? Take that. You're loving unconditionally. This is the test for that. So that has been very revealing to me, for me. But it's at this point now is I get to keep on coming back and just see what else is there to claim, to be honest with myself, where I can continue to grow, where I continue to learn myself, and where I can continue to love her unconditionally. And the last thing I'll say about that is, and I planted this seed a little bit, is the truth is sometimes the struggle I have with loving her unconditionally or without conditions is because that's such part of me that's a deep wound that I still don't have for myself. I still struggle to love myself unconditionally in these phases, in these ebbs and flows of life. Like, I'm very critical of myself. I'm at I don't know what to the ever flow of the down. If I'm feeling down, I can easily get critical. And that shows up in how my wife moves through it. Get fast out there.
Yeah. I don't know. It feels like they're in.
yeah, it feels like a strong conversation to have with you, because I feel like I'm in a similar place with my connection at the moment. Yeah, just a similar thing. Like my partner's bumping up against some perimenopausal stuff, which is playing an out-and-out connection. And the way you spoke there around like not feeling sexy, about not feeling adventurous, just not wanting to be what I fucking signed up for, is just not there. And I'm like, I'm deeply committed to this. And yeah, I find my work is really holding the polarity of being there as a supportive partner, recognizing that she's having her own experience and that I'm there for her, and not rescuing her, like not trying to fucking be around her and like show up and, continually, because that puts her into victim, and it creates like this awkward cycle of like parent child slash, rescuer victim. And it's not healthy, but it brings back this part of me, the young version of me, the polite version of me that wants everybody to be okay all the time. And when she's not okay, it's not mine, and in some ways it is mine because I've committed to being here. And so, yeah, I think we're sharing something quite similar there, and I'm dancing with it at the moment. And yeah, what it looks like is less intimacy. It looks like less fucking, it's a lot more like, I don't want to get out of bed today, and I'm sick again, and I'm feeling depressed. And we went on this trip, and like all the things that we planned, a lot of it was like, I don't feel like going out the house today. And I'm like wanting to, part of me can strap it on, soldier, we're here, let's go. And the other part is like, fuck you, I'm going anyway. And it's like, I've got to try and hold these parts of myself. My wrinkles just lighting up every time I feel it. Yeah. And yeah, I've got to hold myself first and make sure that I'm solid before I can, really show up with genuine authenticity. What I hadn't looked at, and I don't know if I have it, I'm going to need to sit and meditate on this, is the attachment to the identity of being the person that's supporting this other being that you've spoken to, And so I think my question is really, if not that, then what? What do you reframe that to? Like, you've identified it, so what do you replace it with, or how do you hold that part of yourself?
Yeah. And so this is all still fresh and new, so I'm not gonna pretend like I have a prepared answer. I don't. But what feels true for me right now is coming back to the recommitment of who I'm committed to be. And that's helping me a lot, very, very new right now. Because when I think about before, all the things like my needs, my excitement, it's like, yes, I'm here for this. And like, I'm putting myself on the back burner. I've been doing this. And this is what was causing a lot of resentment in me in this process, is in this role that I put myself as this superhero. I made myself, yes, I'm the hero. She's the victim. That every time I want to step into something, I kept putting my needs and my emotions to one side for her. But I wasn't really doing that with all the purity that I thought I was. Like I was building resentment behind the scenes. Like I was crying inside, right? And so in a very similar space of what I'm feeling from you is, how do I keep my needs intact while at the same time still want to take a stand for her? I don't have a clear answer for that right now. But coming back to the committing to the man that I want to be for her, have whatever state she's in, is helping me. Because if I'm also being honest with myself, going back to these past months and even years, I have been really secretly wanting to create a new intimacy practice for us, but really for me. If I'm being honest with myself, yes, I should benefit, that I will both benefit from reimagining our intimacy. If I'm being honest, like I really wanted to create that space because I am really missing intimacy. And she shared she is as well, right? But it's what I want. I have expressed that I would like to have some quality time to do certain things so we can share more openly. So we can, understand where we are. Where's your process? How can I best support you? Why? Because that communication makes me feel safe. I see the benefit for both of us, but it makes me feel safe. And so again, when I'm being honest and I stop and I say, well, Brian, how much, be really honest, it's radical honesty. How much have you really been thinking about her? Like really her journey, what it's like to be in her body, her experience. She's trying to be the best damn wife she can be for you. She didn't sign up for this. This isn't her fault. She didn't wake up one day and say, hey, I want to have a tuber now, and this is it. Like, that was not her plan. She's also trying to figure this thing out, right? And so if I'm being honest with myself, I don't really have an answer. So that lets me know not enough for me. I don't need anyone else to tell me. I don't need anyone else's assessment for me about how it is I want to be in union. I haven't considered enough really about what her experience is without putting mine in the mix as well. I think we're back now. All right, cool. Without putting mine in the mix as well. And so again, it doesn't necessarily mean that I need to forget about myself. Because when I'm saying, how am I committed to showing up for her? Write down, it's not, oh, her needs are more important than mine. It's okay, cool. I really do trust. I trust that getting myself back to the line in this masculine energy, this protection, this truth, that if I go into and approach her with more unconditional love, unconditional love. What's going on? I was back. No, what's going on? That was me. I might be. All right. I'm also on a small island, so let me try to get closer to the window. So when I come back to being honest about, was I really being there for her as unconditionally as I can? Because I want to love on her because she wants to give me back. It's very few. So right now I'm in this remembering, right? This rebuilding stage for me, bring myself back, because over time I would be taking these emotional and energetic beatings that I got distracted. Although I'm proud of how I showed up, I got distracted. So it's coming back together and say, okay, right, this is the new commitment. This is the new vision for yourself, and then trusting how it's going to show up for her. And so that's the best I got right now.
Yeah. I'm laughing because there's so much stuff that you're saying that I think is resonating with me. And I think what landed it there was the same thing. I'm like continually recognizing how I'm being in this situation and how I'm being with regards to her. But I don't take the time to put myself in her shoes and feel like, I mean, obviously from time to time I do, but I think that's really the edge, is to be there and be like, how fucked up would this feel if I was the one going through some stuff where at a deep level, I know that she wants intimacy. I know she wants to be well. I know she wants to feel good in her body and be in the exciting blah, blah, blah that we both signed up for. And this is where we are. And so, yeah, at some level, like, I'm committed to doing it. I'm committed to showing up for that. But at some level, I don't know that I always necessarily spend enough time maybe contemplating it from her point of view about exactly how she's feeling with regards to the heaviness around this and how it's showing up in our connection and shaping our experience. So, yeah.
I'll tell you this as well, Garrett, for me, it's for me, and I want to speak this out too. This is like on behalf of men in general, especially for the men who are really committed to doing this, it's also reminding myself to give myself a break, to not be so hard on myself. Because I also feel that part of when I get in these moments when, like I say, well, damn, Brian, you should have known better. You should have been able to see through, her mood. You should have been able to love on her harder. You should have been able to, again, I could have done 1,000 things different or better. Mm-hmm. But again, going back to Brian, okay, look, the art of fucking some relationship and fucking my life, right? Like it's in the sense of not intention, just like based on my expectations. If I was at this level of enlightenment and awareness, I really would be okay with everything that's happening. But I'm attaching these outcomes that I want to see. I'm attaching my identity to how I'm showing up as this guy, this mentor, this coach, this husband. I'm putting so much weight on how I should show up, as opposed to just doing the best job that I can and trusting that the path will reveal itself to me. That I make it harder on myself. So it's like, Brian, stop for a second. There's no manual to do you. Forget the manual for this marriage. There's no manual to do with this life. If you had asked me 13 years ago, I've been here for 13 years, been staying for 11. If I would be here 13 years ago, would I be here right now? Of course not. I would be back in Orlando, Florida with my community, doing business. I'd be like a CEO of some company making millions right now. That would be my answer 13 years ago. There's no way I would have predicted this at all. Yet here I am. And would I go back to that? Would I change my decision? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So just trusting. Say, if I have that same trust and awareness that I would have 13 years ago, can I stop and put a new stake in the ground for myself and say, Brian, trust the process. Trust your process. You're not going to always show up as this great integrated guy as much as I'd love to. And if you don't, that's okay. Take ownership of it and then recommit yourself to it and then go and then job done. Apart from that, there's nothing more I think I can do. I can't stress myself out like I have been doing. I can't take all this burden and all this like lashing to myself because I'm not doing it great enough. You know, it's like I could, but I've done that most of my life. It just hasn't been effective, you know? So just for all the men out there, again, watching live or watching the replay, grace for yourself. And I know we're not good at that. I'll speak for me for sure. I'm definitely not good at that, but grace yourself. Like stop and recognize the badass job you are doing. Like seriously, like recognize that you are stepping in. Recognize that there's no manual for this, that this is the best job that you're doing. May not be perfect, but are you committed to it? Like really like big yourself up sometimes, because oftentimes I feel like, oh, I like to big me up sometimes, you know, and that's nice. But what if she's not in the mood to do it? Do I then succumb to like feeling like you know, like a little pissy, or do I say, I don't need her to be great to hear it from her, but I actually don't need it as well. I can sit back and reflect myself, do a damn good job.
Yeah, I resonate with that, and I feel the same with some of the men that I work with. You know, we can be really hard on ourselves, and I don't know whether it's like a collective agreement or something that was modeled or perhaps something in society, but we have the sense of like we need to be always doing better, you know, whether it's in our marriages or in our businesses or whatever. There's this continual drive to just can improve, you know, and I notice it in my own behavior, you know, in my connection. Can I be better? You know, can I listen to more podcasts? Can I ram another, you know, bit of knowledge inside my head to continually grow? And yes, it's amazing. And it can be exhausting. And yeah, and when you're exhausted, you can't show up fully for the things that genuinely are important. So resonating with that so much, bro.
Yeah. It's just a quick question I have for you. The last part you just said right there, because I've also shared that, and I find myself like stop listening to so many podcasts and ebooks all the time. So for you, because actually I do remember now going, because you guys have this amazing project in Guatemala. I remember now watching videos of that being built. So kudos to you for bringing that vision into it. It's coming back to me now. So as you create this beautiful space, I remember from the vision, the intention that you and your partner have for this space. What are some of your practices now of like your self-love practices, self-acceptance practices, trusting that you're perfect the way you are right now, that prepares you to bring that same gift, magic, and medicine to the men you help as well? Like, what does that look like?
I think at the basis of it is what we've discussed earlier on in this conversation, which is, for me, I think the only work for me to do is self-love. And I think that's the same for all of us, you know, because anywhere where we move into partnership or project or anything without complete love and acceptance of self, there's always like a projection into the other that you need to show up somehow differently because I'm not okay with being me. And so the self-love practice for me is really it. Like, I think that's all of our work to do, recognize that we live in a world that through conditioning, programming, imperfect parents, expectations, we have wounds, and those are our work to carry. Some of us have got huge wounds, but I don't believe that we're given more than we can handle. And so I think the self-love practice is really it. My regiment is really like something I call the first 4%, which is really the power hour that I dedicate to myself based on this concept of me, we, and thee, meaning like concentric circles going out. And recognizing that at the beginning and the center of this is me. And that if I'm not stable, the idea that we, the next circle out from me, which is family and partnership, if I'm not fully solid there, I can't show up fully for the family or my partner or my direct community. And then these, the greater experience, you know, the whole, the work that we're putting out into the world. And again, you know, I see this, and I think I do it myself sometimes when I'm not my best version of myself. We wounded, but we're going out to go and save the world. And it often looks messy, and it's like, you know, continually rescuing and pointing fingers at everything that's bad. And it's like, when we isn't stable, you can't go into when me isn't stable, you can't go into the we or the thee. And so the first 4% for me is a combination of things like breath work, cold plunge, moving my body, meditation, a self intimacy practice, a self pleasuring practice where I am cultivating and activating my sexual life force with myself, even though I'm in partnership, which brings me to be the perfect lover that I want to be with myself. Because again, if I'm not desperately in love and self-activating in my own practice, I move into and I outsource my pleasure to my partner. And then a lot of them that I work with do this. It's like, my wife's not giving me love. Okay, how's your self-love practice? What do you mean? Like, we're not even taught this stuff, but the idea that I can come self-activated to my partnership, at the basis of that is recognizing that it's not my lover or my wife's partner responsibility to bring intimacy to me. I need to show up there completely self-activated, and it's her responsibility to do the same, because then you come from a place of completely full. So those are some of the practices that I cultivate, and at the basis of that is really just falling deeply fucking in love with yourself, including the parts of yourself that are messy, where you didn't show up fully, where you've dropped the ball, where you didn't get the deal, like all that stuff. And so, yeah, I think it all starts with that. And in some ways, I've also noticed, I think everything has this like superpower, and then it sometimes gets to a place where it becomes a shadow. And so I think for me, there's a part of me which is like, part of it as well is recognizing that, you know, sometimes I'm not going to fucking do my morning routine because I just don't feel like it, you know? And there's my drill sergeant, the part of me that's like, do it. This is what makes you the being that you can be, da-da-da. But it can be fucking exhausting. And it's like, today I'm going to take a break. I'm just not going to do that. Well, I'm going to go for a walk instead of lifting heavy weights. So that's what my body feels like. And so that's also an act of self-love, the recognition that it's not always like driving and continually pushing. And it's a life of polarities. You know, you have these two parts that are continually there, and you've just got to dance through the middle way of recognizing that it's both the hard commitment and it's also the soft comfort of holding and loving yourself in.
Yeah. Oh, I'm digging that so much. I'm actually going to use that. I love the the simplicity of the me, we, and the. It resonates a lot with, again, a similar path like my wife and I. You know, we both know, or we believe that the fact that the universe stopped us from having kids or never gifted us kids was for one of that reasons, to allow us to serve on a different kind of level, right? Because we're both into this kind of work, and the fact of the matter is not having little kids to take care of, our own kids, does free us up to do more, to give more, to be more energetically available to the people in there, right? So what I'm curious for you, and I'm thinking about, because I've seen the movie of the making of where you guys are, and I'm hearing the little bit of struggle that for you, you know, in this the support of being with your partner at this phase, something about your circles now, and I guess it is a bit of a challenge, like, going back to, and it's all to make one big circle of like the art of fucking relationship and not having a guidebook. And so where you two are at right now, like in the we, to then go out there and to serve the thee, if you would, just share more about that and still be, because to me, I still see the beauty in, it may not be firing exactly how you have this vision right now, but I still see so much power of moving through it. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I think some people may hear this like, oh, so until the we is like solid, then we cannot do these things. That almost sounds like perfectionism to me. Like, and I don't want to project my interpretation of that on you. So I'm just curious, like, how you see your guys self in this we phase right now, and then still being able to go out and serve the thee. And yeah, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, beautiful question. I think there's always work to be done. I think, you know, there's a continual improvement of me on an ongoing basis, as there is a continual evolution and development of the we, which is maybe in partnership, but we could be also for a single human being. The we that exists for that human might be your company or your family or something else like that. And so I think, yeah, if your home life is straightening power, it's very difficult to go and serve your mission out into the world, because there's just continually leaking energy in the we part before you get to the we. And so, yes, what it is that you want to bring to the world. My partner has been serving her mission prior to us even meeting in transformation work through an organization called ISTA, the International School of Temple Art. And our journey together feels like serving and showing up and supporting couples in their journey. And we're playing with the idea of what that could look like, maybe some in-person stuff. We're going to do some online stuff. And yeah, it's an ongoing process, but recognizing that if it's fall down, always fall to another level. So at any point I'm out there trying to save the world, but I'm not able to hold myself. I've got to get back to my first 4%, which is that power hour that gets me solid so that I can show up fully with my partner to be able to show up fully to serve my mission. But it's definitely not perfect, but it is recognizing that it's like building blocks that allow you to get there. And without a strong foundation that starts with me, it's difficult to do.
Yeah. I just want to, if you mind if I just pour into you, just give you some water.
Yeah.
All right. Just, where are you from originally?
Johannesburg, South Africa.
Okay, sweet. No, I'm just thinking about, again, the parallels of both of us leading our own way, starting a new life in Latin American countries, Spanish-speaking countries. And I just want you to know that I see the work and the effort, and I find it very inspiring. So I don't see a lack, although your inner dialogue may be different. There's truth, be a solid home life, being able to go out there and serve, but you being open to share that part of your journey, like even with someone like me on the outside, it's inspiring to me, So if anything I could say you didn't ask for is, again, to be graceful with yourself, because here in the process, to hear your struggle and your candidness about how you're moving through it, it fills me up, man. Like, I don't feel so alone, because sometimes, I don't know how you feel, sometimes I feel like a lonely, what path I'm on. If it's only just me, like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing this? What's the point? So just thank you for continually in. Thank you for being open. Thank you for still manifesting your dreams. With everything going on, it's still not losing. And just thank you for sharing that with me and the world, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, brother. And I've gleaned so much from this conversation. And I think, when you reached out to me, I had been calling in invitations for co-creation with people. My human design is as a projector, and I'm best when somebody reaches out to me. So when I received your message, I was like, this feels good. And the hour that we've been jamming here feels powerful, and vulnerable, and like what I came to do for sure. And my podcast, the Call to Courage podcast that this will go on to, is really the recognition that the original definition of courage is to speak from the heart. And I think a lot of men in their heads, just driven by my era and my desire for intimacy, but really the union of these two is in the heart. And I think the ability to be able to speak from the heart is a courageous act. And brother, I feel that in what I've seen in your work and how you're showing up in the world. And I just want to honor the journey that you're on. And I think, I've gleaned so much just from this conversation and what I've seen you doing, and honoring you too, brother. Thank you.
Yeah, really receiving it. You can say receive it, but then let it not go real deep. So I'm going to really let that sink in.
In wrapping up, I'd love you to just share what you're working on at the moment and where people can get hold of anything that's a life for you that you're creating, either in the relationship space, the men's workspace. Feel free to rip a little bit on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's coming at a perfect time. I was just speaking to a coach of mine, help me organize all these ideas I have. And so the flagship program that I have for what's it called, intentionally vegan, is a one-on-one container for couples that starts at 6 months, and essentially the process is in the name. It's really being within intention. So whether you identify with marriage or partner, it's build it from the ground up. It's being able to recognize some of the we have, challenges that we have, the fears we have, our dreams, our passions, our desires, and building a container for each couple, the needs that they're calling in. So the spinoff of that is a group container program that's actually launching in the next month. It's 3 months long. It's based on the same principle, but then allowing couples to create with each other, because also, as I share right now, sometimes I think in a partnership, we can feel lonely. Like we're the only ones going through this experience, And so creating a safe container we can learn from each other, be inspired by each other. Here, my wife's voice coming from another woman's mouth may allow to unlock something in me that I haven't been hearing because I feel it now,
Yeah.
And so the previous, and so the other part that comes into that is there's a track for women called Awaken the Goddess, and there's a track for men called Man Unshakable. And these two also are preparing both men and women to really get their truth, their authenticity, to understand their wholeness, their completeness, getting into partnership, right? And so the whole idea is to come back to recognize like where we are, to love ourselves, to completely accept ourselves, to accept that we're going to fuck it up based on our own expectations. Whole, complete, worthy of love, worthy of bliss, and all of it. And so, any questions you have on any of those, find me here on Instagram, drop me a DM, find my email, shoot me an email. Happy to see how those programs could support you on your journey.
Amazing, brother. And yeah, for me, I've got a similar container starting specifically for men that are wanting to be in partnership. It's called From Solo to Soulmate. And yeah, the details for that are actually starting on something that I've created called the Soulmate Safari, which is a free masterclass that's basically how to navigate the dating desert and attract your ideal mate. And I just launched it yesterday, so I'll include that in the show notes as well. And yeah, I want to have another conversation at some point. I feel the topics that we touched here are deep and you can expand into. And I just want to say thanks again for reaching out. It's been an honor spending time with you, brother.
Yeah, likewise. Just before we wrap up, I want to put this last intention out there because I heard you and your partner calling in person events. And I'm actually working with a buddy of mine in Belize about doing a couples retreat sometime in the new year around January. Not too far-ish from Guatemala, so maybe we could do a double up trip. Let's just put that seed out there. End of January, beginning of February.
Amazing.
No pressure.
Yeah, man. And yeah, I'm very keen to co-create. I feel a resonance with your journey, and yeah, I'm receiving that.
Adios, nos vemos.
Nos vemos, amigo. Mucho gusto. Much love, bro.
Ciao.